All right, welcome back. This is episode 22, Malapert Smart Wrestling Podcast, baby. I'm your host, Kayhan, and I got two guests with me today. Thank goodness. Nice to have someone to talk to. Brian is back. Brian, welcome. Thank you. You were
good to be back. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, you were on our monumental 20th episode, our landmark 20th episode. Now he's back for his episode 22. We're excited to have you. I think it's going to be an interesting one. And I also have Vlad, the wrestling expert, the mainstay here. He's been on all 22 episodes. Incredible run.
I hate that there's so much pressure on being the wrestling expert. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I've become the wrestling expert somehow, but I don't know if I want that to be my moniker.
Hey,
that's
brother,
me.
Just lean into it. Just lean into it, man.
That's me putting Vlad over.
I'll go.
If I was Vlad, I'm Vlad's manager. That's why I'm trying to put you over and say, hey,
got it.
Well, you are a bit of an expert, man. I mean, I feel like you understand the business pretty well, and you've watched a lot of it over the years, and you've seen it all. So,
sure, I've seen a lot of wrestling. I will admit to that. That much I can admit to, and I will agree to that.
Well, before we get started, I want to jump right into this. I don't want to be like Jim Cornette and talk about a bunch of nonsense about our own lives and stuff. Like, I hope you guys are doing well, but if you're not, don't tell me. I don't care. We got to talk wrestling here, okay?
Damn,
only.
It's harsh.
I'm kidding.
Get it.
I care. But we're going to jump right into the wrestling because in case somebody actually clicks on this expecting wrestling, let's deliver. So we have done a lot of modern wrestling talk on this show. We usually review whatever happened during the week. That's kind of a lot because there's a lot of wrestling these days. So we haven't really done a lot of classic wrestling talk like we originally wanted to when we started this show. But the other day I was just laying in bed and my friend Vlad sends me a text. He goes, hey, who do you think was responsible for the death of WCW? And I'm like, damn, that's a tough question, man. And it's a good question. So I said, why don't we save it for the show? I've been thinking about it all week. Ideas been bouncing around my head, trying to think who was responsible for this whole thing because I'll give a little bit of background, a little bit of history. I don't want to go through the history of everything because if you're a huge wrestling fan, you probably know, or you can look it up. But WCW took off in '96 when the NWO idea started, right? At Bash at the Beach. And then the huge boom. If any of this is not the way you guys remember it, jump in and let me know. So I'm going to go over how they went up. They were ahead of WWF, and then they went down, and then the subsequent, just disastrous ending. So the way I remember it, Bash at the Beach hit, NWO took off, Hogan joined Scott Hall and Nash. They looked really cool. They were just running roughshod, beating everybody up. Fall Brawl 96 came. Sting, not trusted by his WCW mates, right? Because there was another Sting in the NWO. There was the NWO version. And they weren't sure if it was him or not. And he was offended that they even really would think that he would do this, right? So then that's when he walked out on him at Fall Brawl. He came in, he took out the NWO, and there was obviously an NWO Sting there. He's like, look, is this enough proof for you? Is this enough evidence? Oh, actually, you know what? Funnily enough, I was watching this earlier today. I have a little clip of how this went down in the steel cage at War Games when Sting walked out on his bandmates, and this kicked off probably the best storyline that WCW had, right? When Sting went up into the rafters and became the Crow Sting, the mysterious guy who would hang up in the rafters and he would terrorize the NWO from wherever he was, up in the sky. He was the only guy who would really terrorize them and put fear in their hearts. And this was Eric Bischoff's magnus opus story, really. This was the time period where they were beating the WWF. This was cool. This was really good. But when it went to Starrcade, obviously we know what happened. They didn't put Sting over the right way. There was the fast 3 count. This was like the beginning of the end, really. This was the end of 1997. So I remember this night. I remember this night at Starrcade, and it was bad. Honestly, it didn't feel right. So I'm not going to get too deep into how it happened, but the Wolfpack split off the NWO in 1998. You know, not as hot an angle, but still, you know, a lot of ratings, pretty good. And then 1999 came, finger poke of doom, when they put the Wolfpack and the NWO back together, and that kind of just is the moment where people think that they really jumped the shark, and everyone jumped. Like, there was already good stuff on the other channel, on WWF, so most people just went over there. So then Bischoff got sent home because it just wasn't going well. The network hired Vince Russo. There's a lot of stuff in between here. You know, there's a lot of interim stuff. Vince Russo was put in charge. It didn't work out. It was a little psycho and crazy. Then they put Bischoff and Russo together, which was they just talked about this a lot in the new Dark Side of the Ring episode, about how they didn't work well together. And then after that, it was just the last year. There was some Bret Hart before he got injured. A lot of Goldberg, and Scott Steiner was the champion at the end. Booker T got a little run. But at that point, the damage had already been done. So I put a broad description of how everything went down, which ended in the sale of WCW to WWF in 2001. So this is really sad, right, Vlad? Like, we loved this company. It looked cool. It looked grand. It looked flashy. When the entrance came, it looked amazing. The entrance, the music that started the show, we absolutely adored this time of our lives. And it was a really sad way to end it, to not only get sold, but sold to WWF, and they just completely humiliated the product, didn't treat it like anything, really. They just killed it. And that was the end of an era for me and Vlad. I stopped watching for a long time. Really, everything, all my knowledge about that era, I went back and watched all those tapes again when I found I got them a little later in life. But I stopped watching wrestling. To me, that was kind of the death knell. It was really sad for me. I was 10 years old, you know.
You were 10? Oh,
I was 10. 1997 Starrcade, I was 10 years old. So, listen, I'll start with Vlad, because Vlad posed the question, and then I'll go to Bryan, and then I'll give my ideas of why I think WCW died. I mean, I have some names I could throw out, some general names. You know, these might be in your answers, it might not be. Bischoff is a guy people blame a lot. The network, because they put Russo in charge, okay? The Hogan, I guess you could throw Hogan in there just for creative and not really being stubborn about creative at times, not letting them go in different directions. WWE's success, okay, that could be another reason. Maybe the WWE was just so good, Stone Cold and Vince and The Rock. And the success itself, maybe the success itself led to the downfall in a way. So these are all I'm just throwing everything out there in a big brainstorm. This is just a really deep, crazy conversation to me that we're even having it. But I want to go to you guys, all right? I've spoken enough. I want to go to Vlad. Vlad, you asked the question, who was responsible for the death of WCW? You have the floor. Why don't you tell us your thoughts about it?
Well, sure. But I also want to give it some context. Watching a podcast with Eric Bischoff. He has one of his, I guess he has one. He had Nick Patrick on, and of course they were discussing the 97 Starrcade, right? The slow count that wasn't, or the fast count that wasn't a fast count that ended up being a regular count. There was a lot of back and forth of what was told to Nick Patrick, but I definitely believe Nick Patrick's side, where he was told by Bischoff to give a normal count, and that's what he ended up doing, because Bischoff, I mean, I'll get to your main question of who's responsible for the death of WCW, but I just want to say that Bischoff is a known liar, and he lies about everything that he says. Okay, so the whole thing, I don't remember. Oh, I said that? Oh, okay, well, I don't remember that. When it's convenient, he doesn't remember anything. When it's convenient, he doesn't remember. This is only maybe the biggest angle in the history of wrestling, but he doesn't remember what he told the referee that day. Okay, whatever. I don't believe it. Okay. But anyways, As far as the overall question of who, there's so many. I mean, you can't really just put it on one person, or there's so many little things that added up to the death of WCW. It started there in '97 Starrcade because that was at that time probably the biggest show, maybe in the history of wrestling. I mean, so many eyeballs were on that main event. They had already been building this up for over a year with Sting and Hogan now. To have that type of letdown and to have such a screwy finish, it was just it was disheartening, right? And that was the start of their demise. There were many other reasons for their demise. You mentioned it. I mean, there's so many, like you said, there's so many little things that added up to big things. But Bischoff, not really, being like a leader and really just being for Hogan, really just being Hogan's sidekick. I think that's a big thing. Obviously, the WWF becoming just, with that, bringing that whole Attitude Era and just like Stone Cold, and that's, the spark that would happen with that. That's one of the reasons, of course. But just a lot of poor booking choices, not building up young talent. And then, of course, the final nail in their coffin was Russo. But I think they were already on their way down before Russo. Like, Russo gets a lot of hate, and he should. He wrote a lot of bad stuff. He booked a lot of bad things. But WCW was in bad shape even before Russo got there. He just was the final nail. Like, he if you want to say he killed it, yeah, he killed it, but it was already like dying, But, I don't want to rant and rave too long. I want Brian to give his opinion, and maybe we could, talk about it as we go. But, yeah, I'll let Brian give his point.
Let's get Brian in here. I'm 12 minutes into the show. I haven't gotten Brian involved yet. I'm a terrible host. But, Brian, please.
No, you're a great host. You're a great host.
You have the floor, please.
So I will say, full disclosure, so Kayhan and Vlad, you guys were watching WCW in real time as this was happening.
Yeah.
I got into wrestling. I think I said this the last time I was on the show. I didn't get into wrestling till 97. And I was definitely, when I did, I was definitely much more watching the WWF at the time because of The Rock. He got me involved, but I'm watching with my friend. We're in the dorms, and they would always, go back from Raw to Nitro during the commercial breaks and everything. But for me, I was always like that WWF guy. It wasn't until I got older and I kind of went back and I, watched, old episodes of Nitro. I read a lot about what happened, history, the history of WCW and their rise and their fall. But if you're asking who's the guy that's responsible, I think ultimately it is this guy, Jamie Kellner, who was the executive who was put in charge of TNT. This was after, I think it was during the AOL, because AOL purchased TNT. There's some merger that happened. But Jamie Kellner was the executive.
Time Warner. Yeah.
Right, yeah. But Jamie Kellner was the executive who stepped in and was like, you know what? I don't want wrestling on the network anymore. And yes, everything Vlad said that you said is true. By the time that Kellner was involved, their ratings were starting to decline. They were losing now to WWF, but they still were putting up good numbers, especially for that time, even though they were losing to WWF. But it was Jamie Kellner who made the decision to just cut bait. It's I don't want pro wrestling on TNT. I think his whole thing was it's too lowbrow for what he had envisioned for the network moving forward. So he is the one that is responsible. Taking him out of the equation, I think, Bischoff and Russo probably made that decision a lot easier for him because the show definitely has started to decline. And ultimately, taking the television execs out of it, a wrestling promotion lives and dies by its creative. And when that starts to falter, cracks start to show. And again, you make it easy for somebody who takes over a network who's not a fan of pro wrestling anyway and has seen where they were and what they're doing now And again, even back then when they were losing to WWF, I mean, they still had viewers. But, you know, the poor creative can lead to a loss of viewership. I mean, it's just plain as simple as that. And I know, you know, Russo gets a lot of hate online for a lot of stuff that he says. And, you know, although I was not watching WCW with him in charge in real time, but I definitely watched a lot of his run when he was in TNA, and I was not a fan of the shows when he was involved. And I know he was in, you know, a lot of his acclaim comes from his run with Vince and WWF before he made the run or the split to WCW. And I think Vince Russo is the guy that comes up with a lot of ideas, and I think the success that he had in WWF was in large part because he had ideas, but they were being filtered. And I'm not the first person to say this, like it's been reported, but his ideas were filtered through Vince and through other people within that company. And so they would take the best parts of whatever Russo wanted to do, but he wasn't given the keys to the store, where it's like, you can just do whatever the hell you want to do. And when he went to WCW, you know, he was afforded that latitude. And I think he just creatively, made a lot of poor mistakes. And the NWO, for as popular as it was, because that was the thing that kickstarted WCW, it was a situation where, and we've seen this in wrestling, and I'm hoping that this is not a situation that we see with the WWE now with the Bloodline, where it's like you have this really hot angle in this story, but you need to know the destination of what you're driving towards. And when it came to the NWO, it seemed like there was no destination. It was, this is hot. You know, we've got Hogan, we've got Nash, we've got Hall. We're adding all these new members. And for a long time, the NWO angle, that storyline was smoking hot. I still see folks walking, you know, in these streets, you know, rocking the NWO T-shirts. But it gets to a point where it starts to become this diluted thing where, Vlad, you mentioned, like, the introduction of the Wolf Pack, and now you've got these two different NWO factions. And it started to water the whole thing down to the point where everybody was in NWO, Virgil, Ted DiBiase, like, you had all these cats that were part of this faction, and they just kept beating everybody. And it was like, well, you're not building anybody up. This thing has been going on for a while now. Like, there seems to be no end game in place, and there wasn't. And I think that led to a lot of, I mean, it led to a lot of the young talent trying to seek their way out. I mean, the Radicals, when they left, you know, Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, Perry Saturn, like, those guys just bolted. Chris Jericho, they made this mass exodus because, you know, the powers that be, and yeah, you mentioned Hulk Hogan because he had creative control over his character and everything. He just seemed unwilling to allow for these, you know, younger talents to elevate into a higher position. So yeah, I mean, I'm rambling at this point now, but I think, yeah, I agree, Vlad, with everything you said. But ultimately, yeah, it was this guy, Jamie Kellner, who came in. He was like, no, I want this off the network. And that was it.
Well, at least Bryan gave a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave a name. I like that. I like that you pointed it at one guy. Hey, let's go blame this guy. Because
I mean, have you never heard of Jamie Kellner? Because like I said, I've read a lot of stuff about, you know, like books that have been written about WCW and how hot it was, and just as quickly as they became the #1 wrestling promotion in America, it was like their crash was equally as fast because it was just like, whoa, what the fuck happened? But yeah, this guy Jamie, he was always, you know, the guy that was like, yeah, I just don't want pro wrestling.
I knew somebody was maybe gonna say that, but I disagree, Bryan. I will have to disagree. I'm not gonna give him all the blame. Vlad, were you gonna say something before?
I was just gonna say to Bryan's point, would he have been so inclined to not want wrestling if they weren't already like a sinking ship?
Yes, if they weren't a bad show. Yeah, I guess
if they were making money hand over fist like they were doing from 96 to 98, would he be no executive and the world would have let him take wrestling off if they were making the type of money that they were making for those 2 years that they were hot. Nobody would have said, well, yeah, you don't like wrestling, but too bad. We're making so much money with this, we can't take it out there. But once they started losing money, once it became so obvious that they were losing money, yes, it became a much easier proposition. Yeah, let's get wrestling off there. Okay. But yes, the merger did play a part. I'm not going to say it didn't. I can't say it didn't for sure, but if they weren't already a sinking ship, I don't think they would have been able to still pull it off there. With the numbers that they were getting, with the money everybody was making, no, they couldn't. They couldn't have. From a business standpoint, they couldn't have, That's the only point I'd make.
I would just say, because yes, WCW, they were profitable for a couple of years, and then those profits, they were losing money at a time. And I think, when it comes to these executives, it's akin to anytime any kind of merger happens where one company takes over the other, you've got new management in place. It is their prerogative. Like if this is not what we see is right for what the company, the network, yes. Even if the thing was making money, and like I said, I had mentioned like their numbers, their viewership was still good, even if they were losing to WWF. But ultimately, it is that guy in charge. He was just like, this is not the vision that I have for this network. We're done with pro wrestling. And yes, they do have that power and that latitude because the buck stops with them ultimately,
Also, one point I would make about that is that just because TNT didn't want WCW on the air doesn't mean it had to die. Like, it doesn't mean it had to, like, completely fucking disappear off the face of the earth. Like, the fact that it got sold to the WWF was the reason it's gone, because they don't want WCW around anymore. That's Vince's, like, greatest achievement. I killed WCW. It was the last one he killed, right? The last territory, the remains of the National Wrestling Alliance. So if someone else bought it, or if someone else had a deal where they could have figured out some way to I mean, there was no streaming back then, or maybe someone could have, like, wanted to sell VHS tapes. I don't know. Somebody could have kept it alive if they really wanted to, but nobody wanted to put up.
Bischoff tried.
Bischoff
you guys
tried.
know that story.
That's true. Yes.
He tried to purchase the IP and get ownership of WCW, and he had people lined up to support him, but it fell through because once TNT kicked him off the network, it was like, well, you have no value now. If you're not on television, especially back then when there was no streaming, it's like the value of owning a pro wrestling promotion, especially back then, it lies in the reach that you have with your TV partner. And once that's gone, it's like, well, I mean, what am I buying here? Like, it's like they don't want you, and now who is? And I think that's what caused that purchase to fall through, and that's when Vince was able to swoop in and basically he bought WCW almost like as if it was at a garage sale. He got it for so cheap. Yeah. The library, the IP, everything. And it was
like $4 million or something ridiculous.
Yes, I can't believe nobody could think this is profitable just because there's no network. Like, TNA didn't have a network when they started. Somebody could have had some balls and said, hey, this is a brand name, WCW. That's a great, those 3 letters are great. That's just the way they roll off the tongue. WCW. Dude, the brand was worth more than I think it just being on a network. They could have just made a house show and sold tickets. They didn't have to pick up the contracts. The network picked up the contract. They didn't have to pay all those millions of dollars of contracts, whoever bought the company. But I'm just surprised that on that cheap a number, nobody took a chance on it. Nobody.
Well, what I'm actually more surprised about, not so much that it didn't become like, why didn't any other network want to try to get into the wrestling game, I mean, maybe not Turner, but there were plenty of other networks, or maybe there weren't. I don't even know, but there were a lot of networks, but there were some definitely that maybe could have taking a chance, especially considering that they were still doing decent numbers even towards the end. I mean, obviously not WWF numbers, but
yeah. But the thing is, like, if there was a network,
better ratings than most other. Yeah.
If there was a network that wanted them back then, and to see how hard Eric Bischoff was trying to keep it alive, someone would have bid, but no one did. No one did. And I'm looking at it right here, and it looks like WCW sold to Vince for $2.5 million.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
$2.5 million.
Oh wow! I thought it was.
Well, the tape library was $1.5 million or something like that. It all added up to like 4 something. But if you guys don't mind, I'll give my
because I remember seeing them.
I'll give my answer.
1.7 was spent for the library. So yeah, round up $4 million, and he got all of WCW. So
crazy.
Well, listen. So I'll give my answer as to who was responsible for the death of WCW. You guys ready for it? I'll give a name. One name.
One name. Okay. Wow.
One name. Eric Bischoff. I'll say it.
Oh yeah.
I'll say it's completely Eric Bischoff's fault, 100%. Because Eric Bischoff, I'll put it this way. I'll make an analogy. Eric Bischoff is the guy that is the life of the party. He's cool as hell, okay? He's like, he gets everyone, he's like, hey, everyone, let's go out. We're going to go out to the bar. It's going to be really fun. And everyone's like, yeah, this guy's cool. Let's go along with it. Let's go do it. And the night is going great, fantastic. But then at the end of the night, he blacks out and pukes himself and shits himself and says all sorts of horrible things to everybody. And the night was ruined, completely ruined. Everyone hates this guy now. So it's like, okay, yes, he did good to start it off and set it off. Amazing, right? He still celebrates it. His podcast is called 83 Weeks. It's his claim to fame that he pushed ahead of WWE for a little while with that Sting Hogan angle. Pretty much, honestly, that's the main reason they were winning in the ratings. And after that, he had nothing. He was completely in charge of creative at that time, at that crucial period where the Starrcade thing happened, the split off of the Wolfpack, and all that. That was where they needed to like book correctly. They had to keep it going. And to what Vlad was saying earlier, if they kept it going, if it was still going nose to nose with the WWF, or going pretty well, not even nose to nose, just like solid, I don't think it would have died either. I think either somebody would have bought it or the network would have, like Vlad said, hey, this is making us money and people are interested in this. This is buzz. There was no buzz. Not only was there no buzz, it was a joke. Okay? And yes, I will give a special shout out to whoever was at the network who decided to hire Vince Russo, because I think he was kind of blinded by the fact that people just spit out his name as the guy who was like, oh, this was the guy who was creative for WWF when they had their big boom. But really, it was Stone Cold and Vince. All the other storylines on Raw, did anyone really care about? I was really just like pushing through them just to see what happened with Stone Cold and Vince. Like, I didn't care about Mark Henry and Mae Young or Val Venus, whatever he was doing, or The Godfather coming out, or whatever else. What was the boxing tournament they had? I don't know. You know, he just, yeah, they should have never hired Russo. And that was all, yeah, that was a continuation of Bischoff's failure, was just adding another failure on top of it, just like sent people away in droves after that. And it was too late to recover at that point. At that point, they just lost a lot of viewership. And, yeah, it was easy for them to let it go because they had lost such a large chunk of the audience that it didn't really matter if they just didn't have it on the air anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and blame Bischoff. I think it was a tough job. It was a tough job, but he had the chance. He had everything, the whole world in the palm of his hands right there. Perfect. All the superstars, everything. All he had to do was just keep it going like in a standard, traditional wrestling way. Like Vlad was saying. Choose a young guy, build him up little by little, at least throw in Eddie Guerrero. Not saying everybody, not all the youngsters all at once like they tried to do at some point. But, you know, there was some guys who obviously deserved it and could have been worked in there. And I guess that's where I'll point to. I'll point to that. By the time they put Bischoff and Russo back together to try to save the ship, it was already like pretty much done. And then by the end, no one was really around. Kevin Nash, Hogan, they were not really, I don't know what they were doing, to be honest, getting paid to stay at home. And I think Scott Steiner was the champion leading up to the end. and then Booker T beat him on the last day to take the title to WWF, and that was the end. That was the end of our dream. And I was very loyal to WCW. I very much liked them more than WWF. I didn't like The Rock. Sorry, Brian, but I didn't like him. Like I thought he was too repetitive, and I heard one promo, heard them all to me. Like they all sounded the same to me, said the exact same things. Like I just wasn't into it. My little sister loved him. You know, she loved. You know, like I'm sure she would marry anyone who looked like The Rock. You know, but I was not enamored with The Rock, and Stone Cold was like, you know, when he started getting injured, he wasn't really there as much towards the end of his career. But I was very loyal to WCW. This still is like a pain in my heart. There's like a hole in my heart. You know, I get the feeling sometimes like if like the copyright could run out and they not renew it, that Tony Khan could steal it away. What do you think, Brian? If he could make the name of AEW WCW, would he and should he do it?
All right, so a couple things. You know, you mentioning Eric Bischoff.
So many things.
I mean, myself and Vlad both mentioned Bischoff and Russo.
Yeah.
As far as being like, obviously there was a creative that, you know, led to the loss of viewers. So we all are in agreement on that. Like, you know, as hot as Bischoff's start was, he wasn't able to maintain it. It's hard, like you said. I mean, doing creative in any endeavor is a tough thing, especially when you've got to do it, you know, every single freaking week with multiple shows without any off seasons. It's hard. So, yeah, the creative cratered a lot of that company. But I will still point to the fact that it was ultimately Jamie he was the one that put the stamp to it. It was like, you're off. We don't want you. And I'm seeing here, so in 2001, WCW, so it says by 2001, WCW had lost like roughly $60 million the previous year from their height. And again, it goes back to what we're all in agreement of, where it's like poor creative led to a loss of revenue. It led to a bleeding of viewership. And you bring in a guy, this new executive, who's like, hey, I've got grand ideas for what I can do with TNT. And you give me all the reasons to just cut bait on a thing that I already want to cut bait with. And yes, had they been profitable and had they maintained a certain level of viewers, it would have definitely made that decision a lot more difficult for him. But like I said, the poor creative made it easy. And it was like, your guys are off. We don't care. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Because you guys said a lot.
I said the hypothetical. If AEW could legally change their name to WCW, would they do it and should they do it?
I will just let you know right now that is not a hypothetical. That is just a non-starter writ large. WWE owns it, and unless, you know, they being WWE chooses to sell to anybody, it's going to stay with them in perpetuity because they own it. And I can hazard a guess is to say that they are not going to sell the WCW IP to their competitors.
I know. It's just a dream scenario, a dream idea.
And I don't. I knew, because we had talked at the bar, and I knew you were a fan of WCW. I didn't realize until now, with your impassioned, not speech, but your impassioned words about your love for WCW. As someone who is not that, I look at WCW, like those words, those three letters to me are a bad IP. It's a bad brand. Like, I don't look at WCW with fondness. When I think WCW, I think of their highs that they had, but I'm more, in my mind, just thinking about how they completely nerfed and effed everything up. It has very little value to me personally, outside of just their historical significance, but like, yeah, in the same way, honestly, that, you know, those three letters, TNA. I think of TNA and I just think of a not good promotion for a lot of its run. Not talking about the current era Impact, because I know it's a completely different animal, different people. Everybody that was involved in those TNA years, Russo and Bischoff, included, are no longer there, and Impact is a much better show. But yeah, there's just no value. For me, it's like it's almost like the Clippers. Like, there's no value in the Clippers. There's no value in WCW. There's no value in TNA. It's like that.
Shot at the Clippers there. Okay.
Yeah, and I say that, yes, I'm a Laker fan, and I'm not trying to just talk shit about the Clippers, but I'm just saying, like, that is an organization that is just, their history is known for losing. They're not a winning organization. WCW was not a winning organization. TNA was not a winning organization. And so,
but the Clippers sold for $2 billion because it is worth something. And I think
I'm not saying it has no value. I'm just saying within the mind's eye, in the zeitgeist of like pop culture, like when people think Clippers, like what do they think? They think their previous owner and all the shit he got himself into, losing, historically just losing and not winning anything. And I look at WCW.
Come on, WCW wasn't the Clippers, bro. I mean, they were mega. They were big time. They were
for 83 weeks.
Until
83 weeks.
No, well, even before that, they weren't like they were the second biggest promote. They weren't like ECW or some indie show.
Right.
It was a grand show. It got big.
But you said it. They were the second biggest promotion. The Clippers are the second biggest basketball team in LA. Who's number one? The Lakers.
Yes, that's true.
Win or
that's
lose.
True.
Even if the Lakers have a shitty season, which we've had plenty of those in our recent history, and the Clippers have had better seasons than us, have actually beaten us. Like they're like on some crazy freaking run where they've beaten us all these like double-digit times. But yet and still, who does everybody talk about? The Lakers.
But that doesn't mean the Clippers shouldn't exist.
I'm not saying they shouldn't exist. I'm not saying they shouldn't exist, but they do exist, and WCW does not, is the point. You know what I mean?
Oh, God. This conversation hurts. No, but I've come to terms with it. When it really happened, I was really, really upset about it. At the time, 2000, when I heard Vince spot, I couldn't even, if someone mentioned wrestling to me, I'd vomit for like years. But, I'm a lot better now. But anyways, Vlad, you look like you're itching to say something.
No, well, I just want to say, as far as how good WCW was, for a 2-year stretch, it was the best wrestling show of all time. It was the best episodic television show of all time. Yeah. It was incredible.
The
level they were at has not been touched by any company, even during the Attitude Era. Austin stuff was great, but what about the rest of the show? Like Kayhan mentioned, there was a lot of stuff that was not so good. There was so much good stuff in WCW for a 2-year stretch. So much good stuff that it's not like history is obviously written by the winners, and WWF will say what they will say in their documentaries. But people that watched and know that WCW was a superior show for at least a 2-year stretch. And that was the best 2 years of wrestling I've ever seen. So, I mean, that's why I think we're having this conversation, because it does hurt. It hurts to discuss because of how good it was and then how they fell apart. But I also want to mention one other reason that they fell apart real quick, and which I didn't mention the first time. I think guaranteed money to all these older wrestlers that did not give them any motivation to then do anything, basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that goes back to, all these guys had guaranteed money. They could do whatever they want. It wasn't Bischoff's money, so he just gave out crazy contracts. And that really helped put, it really stomped out any type of creative that you could have. In Bischoff's defense, he's not a booker. I mean, he was the president of the president of WCW, but he's not really like an old school booker. He's not Dusty Rhodes. He's not, Ole Anderson. He's not somebody that can book. He had Kevin Sullivan do some of his booking, but he had some grand ideas probably that were his, but he wasn't a booker. So, I mean, you can't put all the fault on the creative for him, but you could fault him, or I do fault him, is the crazy money that he gave to all these older wrestlers, and then they didn't have any motivation to do what needed to be done to get younger guys over, because why should they? I have this guaranteed money. It's basically as good as gold. It's Turner. So what's my motivation for putting Eddie Guerrero over? What's my motivation for putting Chris Jericho over? What's my motivation for putting Benoit over, or whoever, Booker T? I mean, there were so many good wrestlers that started in WCW or if they didn't start in WCW, at least got some their first look in the national spotlight in WCW, I should say. Maybe they started elsewhere, obviously, Mexico, ECW, wherever else they came, Japan, whatever have you. But for a stretch, it was incredible. But, it just hurts to discuss because there are things that could have been done, but it was just the fact that it wasn't Bischoff's money and he was just giving money hand over fist to all these guys. That was really also one of the main reasons that it fell apart as well, because there was just so much money given and not enough money coming back at the end.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think those two things are not mutually exclusive. I think one of the best things that came out of WCW, and specifically what Bischoff did for the industry, was the guarantee contracts. These guys should be getting guaranteed money. That in and of itself doesn't lead to their apathy. I think the apathy that you described comes from a lack of leadership on the part of Bischoff and on the part of management to say, look, yes, we're giving you this guaranteed money, but this is what we expect of you. Bischoff didn't do that. He basically let the kids run the asylum, or the inmates run the asylum. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that the guarantee contracts, it started a thing in pro wrestling that WWE does now, AEW does now, and I think that is a good thing. These men and women who go in there busting their ass, night in and night out, whether you're on the top of the card or you're opening the show, in the mid, whatever, they are getting now guaranteed money that is front-facing, that isn't reliant on, the gate was little light this week, so, we're only going to give you this amount of money. I think that was a good thing for the industry writ large. Another compliment that I will give to WCW, because, Vlad, although I was not watching WCW at the time, everything you said about that 2-year stretch, about how great the shows were, is everything that I've heard too. That in terms of just, because I give Bischoff credit for for giving the cruiserweights such a platform on a national stage.
Oh, yeah.
Started the show. Eddie Guerrero, Benoit, Malenko. Like, WWF, they were doing that at the time. And you're getting all this, at the time, state-of-the-art athletic wrestling matches that you could only get by watching WCW. So I give Bischoff that credit. Ultimately, he basically just kind of saw them where they were and didn't really see the value in them to move them up the card, which is the negative. But I will say he gave a lot of these cats a start on a national stage to show how great they could be. And then ultimately let them walk and then go to the competition and become even bigger stars. But yeah, I think the contract issue and the lack of leadership are two separate things. In my opinion, I think I like the fact that, wrestlers in the big major companies now are guaranteed a certain level of income for what they do. Just being fans of their work and knowing, every time you go into a ring, you just never know what might happen. You just don't.
This is true.
Yeah. So. Well, nowadays, even in sports, guaranteed contracts, it's like a coin flip. You're not really sure whether they're going to be responsible and stay in shape and, try to work out the way they were doing when they were hungry. But for some guys at the time, like Scott Hall, it kind of seemed like a bad thing because this era of wrestling that's been highly publicized, a lot of them had drug problems or abused. Scott Hall's case, alcohol, So he had a bunch of guaranteed money. He didn't really even have to work. Why not get drunk, right? So the time period before drug testing and all this stuff. So it was a little dangerous. It was a little new. So I think, as to Vlad's point, and particularly in WCW here, it was like giving these people kind of like too much money all at once, where it's like, dude, we used to have to work for this. Now we just fucking have it.
But we're talking about, these are grown ass men. These are grown-ass men who are making their own poor choices and decisions. And again, this is a management thing. You know, and I know that, I mean, if Bischoff knew that Hall was having substance abuse problems or anybody, I'm using Hall because you mentioned him, like, that's on him to be a fucking leader and say, bruh, I can't put you out in front of those cameras. You're a little tuned up right now. And for this to continue here, you need to do this, that, and the other. It's akin to, like, honest, I mean, and I hate to say, I mean, because I'm rooting for this company, but it's akin to, like, the situation that's going on in AEW right now, where it's like, Tony Khan, you need to get your house in order. You need to sort this shit out and get your house in order. It is the boss's responsibility to make sure that their talent are doing what they need to do, and to not have, and again, another thing, like any sort of, you know, things in their contracts where they're given creative control over their narrative. It's like, no, I'm paying you this money. I'm the boss. You do what I say, type of thing. Eric Bischoff, he wasn't doing that. It seems like Tony Khan is being lax in that area right now with certain people. But it's up to the person in charge. There's talent, and then there's the execs. You know what I mean? The buck stops with them.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, that was like a 40-minute conversation. What do you think? We should probably just wrap it up. Let's move along. That was good, though.
Yeah.
Actually, unless anyone has anything they want to say.
I do. Vlad, what are you drinking right there? What is that?
That is a Peroni.
Peroni, that's what I thought
beer.
it was. Yeah, I like a Peroni.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah, I like those a lot. All right, sorry, Kayhan. Sorry.
No. I actually recognize that drink. I know. I'm like, yeah, I would have one too, but I gotta get through this show. I don't want to fall asleep while I'm in the middle. And the next topic.
Well, I'm not going to throw up from one beer, right?
Yeah.
Well, my issue, Vlad, as you know, is that I have a hard time just doing one beer. Yeah. So once I start rolling, you know, it's a countdown.
Yeah.
To
it becomes a whole six pack. Yeah, I got you.
You get that snowball rolling down.
Well, anyways, let's move on to some modern wrestling for the week. We only have Raw and Dynamite because last week me and Vlad did a review of Collision and SmackDown from last week. So,
do you guys not do NXT at all? Ever?
No, we don't really. We do it a little bit when some of the main roster guys go down there. And like I've covered some of Dominic Mysterio's run down there, but no, I haven't really, honestly. I mean, I'm keeping an eye on, what's her name? The Rock's daughter? In the Schism?
Ava?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really seen her do anything physical yet.
Yeah, she's wrestled one match or two.
Has she?
I think I only bring it up because you know I'm a guest here. You guys do this every Friday. You know, you're gonna get, if you're looking for content, you got to watch NXT.
Oh, we have too much content. That's our problem.
Yeah, I know. But NXT is like a windfall of just stuff to talk about.
I know. I tried to watch it this week. I had it on. I fell asleep while Mustafa Ali was telling something. I think he wants to fight Dominic, right? Is that what's going on? He wants the North American title.
It's so wacky. It's like, and I say, like, I look forward to NXT every week. That's probably the one show I look forward to the most because of how just wacky it is. I mean, you'll have it's the only show where you'll get a match that is just like fucking amazing. And then the next match will be obviously these, you know, young cats. They're in developmental, trying to figure shit out. Where it's like, ugh. But it's like these peaks and valleys of a show that I just find. I'm just fascinated by NXT every week. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad. There's a lot of just like, what the fuck was that? It's like a shoot version of Glow. This is like the best way to describe it.
No. I like it. I like NXT personally. It was probably better than Dynamite this week, which as we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
But I mean, we cut some topics. Unfortunately, when we come to
I get it. I
do
get
our
it.
show
It's a lot
format,
of wrestling. It's a lot of wrestling. So
I would like to talk about Ring of Honor. Like, a show I really like is Ring of Honor on Honor Club on Thursdays. I don't know if you guys have caught any of it, but I'm a huge fan. I really like it. I really like it. Like, there's, like you said, there's a lot of wrestlers that you're not really going to see a lot sometimes. I like the job wrestlers who get a chance once in a while to do something, but I don't have the time, honestly. I'll quit my job.
I'll just say real quick,
and I'll talk about NXT and Ring of Honor.
No, I was going to say real quick. Obviously, I care about the big picture. Like, I care what happens with Braun Breaker and how his development is going, and if and when he'll get called up and what they'll do with him. Because obviously, I'm kind of interested in that because I think he could be a legit star based on what I've seen of him. I mean, his look, his size. I mean, maybe the promo could, I don't know. I think what I've seen is solid. Not great, but not bad. But, neither Steiner brother was, well, actually, later on, Scott became a crazy promo.
You did.
Oh, Scott was a great promo.
Yeah, later on, he became a great promo, but he wasn't for a lot of his career. Towards the end of WCW into TNA, he became a good promo. But
I think Braun Breaker should be up already. That's why I'm kind of like not really wanting to pay attention to this. I'm like, well, they just don't have an idea for him right now, or what? Like, just
maybe.
I mean, he's lauded as like a future world champion, which a lot. A lot of people are. Austin Theory is. Doesn't mean they're going to be champion anytime soon, but I mean, why not just bring someone up hot once in a while and just be like, I watched that NXT match where he fought Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. Obviously, that popped a rating. A lot of people tuned in for that. And I thought it would have been an outrageous idea if they let Braun Breaker win the World Heavyweight title on NXT. I was like, man, what fucking better way to bring him up to the main roster? Shows up with the world title and did it at the Performance Center in Orlando. But that wasn't where they were going. I mean, it was a decent rub. That was it. But I think there's nothing wrong with Braun Breaker. I don't know why he's on NXT. Personally, I think they should say Dragunov too. Bring him up. Bring him up, baby.
The only thing I would say, because I agree. I mean, Ilya Dragunov, Braun Breaker, I think are great. I mean, Braun Breaker in particular. I mean, Ilya Dragunov's been doing this for years, and like anybody who follows independent wrestling or whatever knows how great he is. Braun Breaker is so new to this and is so good at this at such a early age. And Vlad, you had mentioned his promos. He's not a bad promo at all. Mm-hmm. Now that he's turned heel, he just seems much more confident and assertive in how he presents himself. And in the ring, I think he's fucking fantastic. I think the reason that they haven't been called up yet, and I know nothing. I mean, this is me just being a fan and kind of like seeing how things go, is it's all timing. Timing is everything. I would prefer that both of them stay in NXT in lieu of being called up to the main roster where they've got nothing for them to do, especially in the case of a Braun Breaker.
Okay, that's true. I'll agree with that.
You keep him where he is. I think, next week, or who is he fighting? Von Wagner or whatever. But he's got some stuff going on in NXT. But just keep him there. I think the worst thing you can do for him, and they already did it before when they called him up to the main roster and Dolph Ziggler beat him for some inexplicable reason, which I thought was asinine.
What the fuck? But I believe that.
But just keep him where he is because I think they're waiting for the right time to bring him up to do exactly what you are hoping that they do with him, which is he makes it a splashing debut on SmackDown, on Raw, and he's kind of just like kickstarted into like a high level position. That is my hope, and I would rather they do that and just keep him in NXT until they're ready to bring him up to the main and really put the rocket behind his back, because I think the kid has money written all over him. And if, I always look at wrestlers like stocks. Like if I had to invest in a wrestler, like he's a blue chip. Like I'm putting all my money in Braun Breaker. Like this guy is going to, he's going to have a lot of success when he gets to Raw or SmackDown. I absolutely believe that.
Well, that was the NXT portion of the program. Back to
Hey, you got
reality.
your NXT portion, Brian. You
I know.
got
Yeah.
it.
Sorry. Yeah.
You got it, man.
back to real life. Well, we got Monday Night Raw. We don't even talk about all of Monday Night Raw, Brian, let alone, NXT, if I can find time for that. It's hard enough with these 3-hour shows, if you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But
Yes, I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
I would love to sit around and watch wrestling all day, every day, Brian. It would be my biggest dream in the world. But the question I have for you guys is, what do you think Shinsuke Nakamura whispered to Seth Rollins right there? Something really, really crazy. I mean, it seemed to me like he had his kid kidnapped and like locked up in his basement or something. Like, I kidnapped your child, or I was with Becky before you. Maybe.
See, I'm actually, and I know this is not what it is, but I'm hoping that Shinsuke kind of said, brother, your fashion sense is terrible. Like, whoever's telling you that you look good in all these outfits you come out in, it's like, you don't, bro. And that's why he took the glasses off. Like, what? I don't look as cool as I think I do? That's what I think he said.
But do you have any guesses on what Shinsuke?
Yeah. He said
that was a good one, Robert.
I got it. I think he said, I got to go take a shit, so let's wrap this up real quick. Let's wrap up this segment because it's already ran 10 minutes too long. Let's get out of here, man. Let's get out of here. But hold on, I still have to attack you. So Seth was so thrown off by this. He couldn't believe what he told him, that he had to, he's like, I mean, so I don't know. That's my guess.
Well, look, Brian.
That's my actually educated guess.
To fill you in on what Vlad's been saying the past few weeks, that he's never seen Shinsuke Nakamura be prominent in any company. He hasn't seen him in New Japan winning the G1 climax. He hasn't seen him in WWE really being the champion, because Vlad restarted watching again when AEW came back, when AEW started, and the wrestling wars reignited, I guess, if you would even say that. But so Vlad's never seen Shinsuke, and he's just like not really into him and any of his segments. I thought this was standalone. I thought this was okay. I thought it was kind of funny that he was doing his promo in Japanese. It's like a cool heel thing to do. Like, I don't care even if the crowd understands what I'm saying. I'm going to talk in my language. So they can put on a good match. This is kind of like an AJ Styles situation where they need someone who can just do a really well worked match, and I think he's passable so far that they've kind of made it so that it doesn't matter that he can't really speak English. So I like that segment. I mean, that's all I'll say about it. I'm not going to really go into anything about Shinsuke's history for Vlad, but Brian, what about you? Do you have any comments on this feud between Shinsuke and Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title?
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that it's a different matchup. I don't recall, I mean, maybe they have, but I don't recall them having ever been in a program together. So I like that aspect of it. And Vlad, like, if your only kind of a familiarity with Shinsuke is from his WWE run, then I can understand you not being all that like I just don't get what everybody gets about him. I get it. Yeah. I get it. I mean, I've seen his stuff. I've seen him live in New Japan. He's fucking fantastic. Shinsuke Nakamura is one of the best wrestlers that I've ever seen live, and he's a very good wrestler. But he's in WWE. He's not asked to do the same level of thing that he was when he was in New Japan. I've liked his WWE run. But it's like a lot of guys from the indies or from other promotions like New Japan or whatever, where I'm like, I'm just happy that these guys are here and finally getting paid what they deserve, even if maybe they're not being slotted in the same way that they were in their previous company, or being afforded the opportunity to wrestle the type of matches that they want to. And when it comes to Shinsuke, I mean, he's been doing this for a long time, and I think for him, he's probably happy that he doesn't have to wrestle that grueling, New Japan style where, anymore, because of, his age and everything. But I like Shinsuke.
Any
And,
chance he's gonna win the title here, or I mean, I would love to see a title. I'll be a fan of his if he takes the title off Seth Rollins.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I don't expect it.
Yeah.
This is the one guy that I don't want Rollins to lose to. I probably want him to lose to anybody else in the company except for Nakamura.
I think he could be cool. You didn't like him in this segment? Thought that was kind of funny. You know, left him laying.
I can't say that I did, but you know, I can't. I'll be lying if I said I did.
All right. Well, let me move on because I got some more stuff to get to.
I like the segment, and I just want to say, Kayhan, before we transition, I don't think him speaking Japanese is a heel thing. I think he's Japanese, and his English is not as good as his Japanese. So I don't look at that as like.
Sometimes he tries to speak English, you know. Now he's like not even. I'm not even gonna try today. I don't feel.
But he did. Like he spoke his Japanese, and then he answered in the best that he could with his broken English to Michael Cole. But for me, like, I never look at that as like, oh, well, you're being a heel because you're speaking in your own language. It's like, all right, just like, cool, whatever. You know, he's Japanese.
It is a heel thing when someone speaks to you in their own. Like if you go into someone's like restaurant or store, and they start talking in another language, I'm like, dude, these guys talking about me or what? What the fuck? Right, Vlad? Or no? It's just generally impolite.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's obviously. It was kind of a heel thing because he was trying to make it so the crowd didn't understand what he was saying. You know, you could have been saying anything. You could have been telling the crowd to go F themselves, go stick it up their ass. You know, he could have told Michael Cole what he thought of him, you know, at that time, which I wouldn't blame him, you know. Just, you know, now Michael Cole's on both shows, so we're getting our fill of Michael Cole.
Yeah, some brand split. Anyways,
don't like, obviously. Oh, there he is. There's Michael Cole.
Yes, there he is. All right, let me move on to the next topic. I mean, I was extremely humored by this one, to be honest. I don't know why, but this made me laugh so much.
Oh, this spot was fantastic. That was fantastic.
For our audio listeners, it's the spot where Damian Priest is trying to slip Finn Balor the Money in the Bank, and it slips right through his legs into Cody Rhodes, and they just look at each other all bewildered, like, what the fuck? Okay, Vlad, I know you've been saying that they're making the Judgment Day look very, very silly lately.
Yeah.
What did you think?
That's my only concern.
Yeah. How was your standing with them after this Raw on this episode? They did leave Cody Rhodes laying though after this. They came out afterwards and beat him up.
Right.
So.
Right.
Does that help with the foolishness?
After slightly, like they got a little bit of their heat back at the end of the show, but boy, oh boy, after the SummerSlam debacle, and then to have the same thing happen on Raw. Remember, I said. Couple shows back that they needed to get some wins. They needed to win some matches, and now they're being made to look like dummies. Okay, I was gonna use a cuss word, but I'll just leave it at dummies. You know, and I'm not sure if that's the right way you would be using a top heel group like this. You know, so that's my concern. Obviously, I know they're trying to build the tension between Finn and a Priest, but they don't have to look dumb in the process of doing it. They could do it in a more natural, organic way. But yes, of course, they did get some of the heat back. They beat up Cody and Sammy at the end of the show. Okay, I mean, I think that puts like a Band-Aid on like a gunshot wound, though. So I don't know. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Oh, I did hear Brian say that he thought that spot was fantastic, which I thought it was well done too. They really nailed what they were going for.
I thought it was great, and I actually don't think that the Judgment Day is being made to look like fools. I think the whole story, because like you look at the Judgment Day, the only one that is being made to look incompetent or foolish is Finn. Damian's got the Money in the Bank. Rhea's dominating everybody he's in the ring with. Dominic Mysterio, as hated as he is running around with the NXT North American title and is winning because of Rhea. I love this story they're doing where it's like the whole dynamic is like we're all doing great except for Finn. And now Finn's got his buddy JD McDonough into the mix. And I like this. I mean, I was hoping that they would have belted Finn at SummerSlam just to really solidify the strength of the Judgment Day. I mean, that's probably what I would have would have done. But
we were all expecting that.
Yeah, but seeing what they're doing, it's like I'm digging it, and I'm curious to see where they go. I mean, I've read reports that it seems like Damian is going to be the one who breaks out of the Judgment Day, and then JD comes in and kind of takes his spot, and then Priest goes babyface or whatever. But I mean, again, that's just rumors. That's what I've read. But I like the Judgment Day. I think they are the 1B to the Bloodline being the 1A in terms of faction, in terms of like a group or a story that kind of has people engaged. At least me, because it's kind of a steep fall from the Bloodline to everything else.
I don't think it was too bad either, Vlad. I mean, I think it's humorous. It's more, it is more humorous than it gives them like credibility, because they have looked really silly trying to help Finn.
Well, right. That's how you really want your heel group to look humorous. Your badass heels to look like a bunch of jokesters. I got it. Yeah, that's the plan. I got it. Well, if that's the case, then they're doing their job. Yeah, they're doing it.
Well, unless Damian is actually like playing everyone, and he's really been like passing him because the way he passed him the briefcase at SummerSlam was a little weird. Like, does he really want to help him? Like, does he want to help? Because if Finn wins the World Heavyweight title, then who's he going to cash in on? There's no one to cash in on. So
he can cash in on anybody. He could cash in on Roman. I mean, they don't ever, introduce that element into it. But he's got the money in the bank.
At SummerSlam, they were in the same building. I had that thought, but they haven't been going there. They're trying to not muddy the waters, I guess. Well, anyways, listen. We're going to talk about our favorite thing in the world, me and Vlad's favorite thing, Dynamite, AEW.
Okay.
Well, our main staple on this show, Brian, if you haven't been watching, for the most part, for most of the episodes, we do like a pretty in-depth Dynamite review just because there's a lot.
I'm aware.
There's a lot in there, and, a lot of stuff to really dissect, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Positive and negative. I don't want to make it seem that we just rip everything. No, there are some positives as well. So there's plenty of both, to go around.
But this was an interesting episode. So let's think about it. And at the end, Brian will ask you for a grade as a show. So let's go through it step by step. I'm not going to go through everything in detail, but we'll go over the card and see what happened. So we started with Orange Cassidy, right, against Wheeler Yuta. So, what happened in this? What was the ending? Orange Cassidy wins, right?
And then gets attacked.
Obviously.
And then they all get attacked. And then there's chaos at the end, and Kingston comes out, which I thought these punches looked terrible, like just terrible work here by Kingston. It's supposed to be like a very venomous feud he's having with Claudio, but he's not really like even gonna touch his face really at all here, so.
No, I think it's fine. Like, I mean, it's just a run-in. Like, I don't know what you expected.
Well, you got to make it look like you're trying to hit the guy, I guess, instead of hitting the air. Anyways,
I thought it looked fine.
I'm not interested in this feud. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. Vlad, are you interested in this feud? Oh, Eddie Kingston came in, and he got the mic. And he's like, let's do a 12-man tag, right? So anybody, I guess, can like just get the microphone and be like, I want to have a match at All In. All right, here's the match.
Not just a match, it's a Stampede.
It's a stadium Stampede, yeah.
Yeah, a stadium. He's like, he felt like, all right, let's all do a stadium Stampede. You know what? Good idea, Kingston. Okay. But I'm just saying, like, it's kind of weird that these guys get to book themselves like that. But
I mean, you make it sound like this is like some new thing. Like this happens in WWE. It happens everywhere. Like,
well, this is a big show. You don't have to run it by somebody before you're like, hey, All In, man. I'm like, I'm having a feud with the maintenance guy in the back. You know what? I want you at All In. Like, what is this match, by the way? First of all, it's just going to be 6-on-3. Right. Well, right now it's 6-on-3. Blackpool Combat Club need to find 3 guys. No Danielson, I guess. And they're going to have a stadium Stampede match in the middle of Wembley Stadium. It's going to look like a shit show. No one's going to be able to see what the hell's going on anywhere. I don't like this idea.
Nancy over here.
I don't like this idea.
I haven't even seen it yet, brother. It's like
I don't need to see it because I don't like this idea of all these guys feuding, the Best Friends and the Lucha Brothers and Eddie Kingston against the Blackpool Combat Club and to be announced. That doesn't really excite me, but it's okay.
With the people involved, there's no way that this is not going to end up being just a junk match, a total foolishness all over the place. It's somebody. I mean, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be. Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, come on, Brian. I mean, we know.
You guys are so harsh.
Let's not call. No, but in this case, we've seen the work that these guys do, the type of matches they're going to have. This is going to be a pretty. It's going to be a garbage match. I mean, what? There's no other way to say it. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be. We've seen these
well, yeah. Yes, it will be a lot of pillage and plunder for sure. I will say I was shocked about the Stadium Stampede announcement because I'm like, how are you going to make that work live? Because I mean, they definitely can't do a pre-tape.
That's
and
true.
Put a pre-tape in front of like 90,000 people at Wembley. So I'm more just kind of fascinated by what they actually do, because I think that's a ballsy call to do a Stadium Stampede match at an event such as this. But everybody involved is super talented, so I think it'll be fun, if nothing else. But I'm just curious to see exactly how this ends up being.
I'll be surprised if it goes off well, personally, but I'll keep an open mind, Brian, for you. I'm gonna move on though. We got a few segments to get through here. So what do we have next? We got Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is interviewing with JR, and this turns ugly because Don Callis comes in, and then they jump him. The Takeshita and the Bullet Club, they whoop his ass, and JR's watching. And Kenny Omega said he wanted to be done with this feud with Don Callis, which I thought was funny, personally, because it's like, yeah, sometimes you don't want to get into a blood feud with someone. Like, can I just move on? But they're not letting him because Don Callis is such an asshole. I've been a fan of everything with Don Callis so far, personally. So I don't know if you have any comments about this segment in particular. I'll start with Vlad. Do you want to give a comment on Kenny Omega's interview and how it got interrupted?
I don't know. I'm trying to think if I liked it or I didn't like it. You know, I'm going back and forth there. I thought it was going to be more of a promo, like a serious promo where he has Jim Ross there. And it's going to be like he's actually talking about his career, his future, what he's going to be doing. And maybe a more serious Kenny Omega I would have liked. But then, like 10 seconds in, it turns into an angle where he's just getting beat up, and then just to announce later on down in the show that it's going to be a 6-man tag for All In. I mean, I'm okay with it. I don't know, but I wouldn't say I'm like looking forward to this that much.
Yeah, the match is the Golden Elite with Ibushi and Page, and against the Bullet Club, right?
Bullet Club Gold.
Bullet Club Gold. Excuse me. Yeah. Damn.
Yes.
All right. Well, that one I'm a little torn on because I like the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're on the card. Okay, we'll talk about who's been left off the card later on. But at least they're on the card. That's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a payday, I think, if you're going to work that show. So I'm happy for that. Brian, did you have anything to say about Kenny Omega's interview skills?
Well, I would just echo what Vlad said, where like when this was announced, I was hoping that it would be more of an actual like sit down with Omega to where he can kind of maybe lay out his mission statement for what he wants to achieve moving forward. Like maybe talk about, hey, I want to get back into the title picture or whatever. And it was obvious as soon as it started, like I was just like, uh-oh, angle alert. I mean, the way that it was filmed and shot, I'm like, okay, this is not a real sit down interview. Like they're just setting something up. And so when the attack happened, I was like, oh, okay, there it goes. Which was another thing on this show. This was like Angle fucking City, man. Like everybody got beat the fuck up at the end of every segment. And it's one of those things like
that's AEW all the time.
Yes, but this was like
Dynamite.
Even more so.
I mean,
this is even more so. And I think it's because they waited so long to try to build to these matches for All In. And it was like Tony Khan just said, well, we got to do it all in one night. And yeah, this was, I didn't think this was a bad segment. It was just kind of endemic of like what happened throughout the whole show, which was just angle, like doing their damnedest to try to set up all these matches. Like there was no room to breathe on anything that happened on this show. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I didn't think it was bad. I love Omega. You know, I like the match. I'm sure it will be great. I like everybody involved. But yeah, it was.
Well, that's one of the criticisms me and Vlad have had for this show is that sometimes it's been overbooked at times, like when there's too many like afterbirths sometimes, and there doesn't need to be. And Raw is like the opposite of this. Like nothing happens on Raw. And this one is like Dynamite's like just cramming everything you could possibly do to the point where you're like desensitized. So you're, another guy's getting his ass kicked. You know,
it's hard to remember one thing from the other because so many things are happening. I'm like, I mean, by the time the show ended, I had forgotten about the whole Orange Cassidy beatdown. And like when you showed the whole Eddie Kingston, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, listen, so my phone died. I had my notes on there for this show, but it's okay. I'll just wing it. I got these timestamps, so let's see what happened next. You know how these iPhones take fucking forever to come back on when they die? Like you charge it and it takes like fucking 20 minutes to come back on. That kind of sucks.
You got to move to Android, dog.
Yeah, I know, huh? They turn on immediately. That's amazing. Anyway, so Hangman Page was here. He looks like he's drinking a beer as he's at the hospital with Paige, right? And they tell him he can't drink the beer, so he chugs it. Right? Which I thought was pretty funny. Like instead of throwing it out, he just slammed it. But that's that. So they set up the match for All In. Lots of matches getting set up. Let's see what happens next. Got my next time code here. It's like roulette. Oh, here's Don Callus. Okay, so this is interesting. This was finally supposed to be when Chris Jericho announced whether he was going to join Don Callis' family, and he came in, and the answer was yes. And Don Callis was like, "Cool, let's go party." But there was a painting there that he was going to show Jericho, and it turned out it was that he was thinking Jericho wasn't going to accept his offer. and the painting is pretty hilarious, honestly. It's a really hilarious painting of him with Jericho's dismembered head. So let me just see if I can get this straight. So for weeks, he's been asking him, bugging him to join his crew, and then expected a no answer just to have a beatdown ready for him, right? Is that what I get? And then Chris Jericho did call him an asshole, and that is such an asshole thing to do. So Don Callis is literally an asshole. And so, yeah, they did have a beatdown ready for him. And, this is, it's always funny to see Don Callis squeal a little bit. Me and Vlad, I remember Don Callis from when I was a kid. He was Cyrus the Virus in ECW. I actually remember seeing him. He had long hair, and he was the same annoying guy. But what about this segment here, Vlad? Well, let me start with Brian, because I started with Vlad last time.
Sure.
Two lowlifes going at it here, feuding with each other, Don Callis and Chris Jericho, and the match is going to turn out to be Will Ospreay all out of nowhere versus Chris Jericho. Okay, what do you think of this segment, and what do you think of this booking, Brian?
I was not a fan of this segment. I love Don Callis. I love Jericho. This is one of those things where everybody involved were trying to be too cute for their own good. None of this makes any sense. You mentioned the fact that, okay, so the whole thing, Callus is waiting for Jericho to give him his answer. You joining me or you not? He has his painting ready that's, covered up, expecting that he's going to say no. Callus being that Jericho's going to say no. And when that happens, they wanted to then beat him down. I'm like, well, if that was the case, why wasn't Takeshita at least in the ring with Callus to then be when Callus, who's already expecting a no, unveils the painting and shows the severed head of Jericho, and then Takeshita's like starts effing him up.
That would have been a little cleaner. I like that.
It breaks logically, this was just all over the place. And it was like one of those situations where you've got a heel who turns babyface because he no longer is getting along with the heel. And it's just a weird thing. So Jericho said he was like, yeah, I'm going to join you. Let's go. Me and you, dog. You know, two scumbags rocking together. Let's take over AEW, whatever the hell. I'm going to get the AEW title back. Boom, boom, boom. And it was only until Jericho's like, hey, so by the way, what's underneath this thing here? Like, what's this painting? And then once he sees that, now all of a sudden he's mad and he wants to fight, understandably so. But I'm like, well, I don't, like, you both are dickheads. Like, I don't, like, that kind of feels like, I'm not, like, who am I supposed to root for here? And it's like, it's just an awkward babyface turn for Jericho. And I thought the performances were good because they're both pros, but just there's no logic involved in this segment at all for me. And I watched it and I was just like, I'm rooting for you, AEW. I want you to succeed. I like these talents, but this felt hammy. It felt low rent. It felt stupid, and I expect better especially from these two, from Callus and Jericho, because they have their say. You know, they can. You know, their say, I'm sure it carries a lot of weight, much more so than like a Julia Hart or somebody else who's out there doing a segment. Like, if Jericho and Don Callis didn't want to do this, they probably could have changed it. So I think it was bad judgment on their part, and I just was not a fan.
How about you, Brad?
And I'm not excited to see Jericho and Ospreay. I love them both. Oh
yeah, forgot about that.
That's not a match that I want to see.
Yeah, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Maybe they talked about it. They're like buddies. Like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we fought it all in? Or I don't know. I have no idea. Vlad, you go ahead, please.
Well, I think Bryan just said it all. I mean, for a second, I thought Jericho, when he saw the painting, was still going to be like, all right, yeah, you're a dick, and I'm a dick, and we're two dicks, and we're still going to join up, you know? But then, yeah, it ended up being like a swerve. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Bryan said it, as best as you possibly could say it. It just lacked all logic.
But your idea, Vlad, yeah. Just, that would have been brilliant. Where it's like he unveils the thing, and like Don Callis like, oh, damn, I was hoping you didn't see this. And then Jericho's like, bro, I get it. You're an asshole. I'm an asshole. All right. You thought I was going to say no. Like, I would have popped for that. That would have been That would have been cool.
That's the direction I thought it was going, because I'm like, well, yeah, we're two assholes. We're whatever. I've known you for 30 plus years. We're two scumbags, whatever. Da 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 da. I don't know. That would have been better probably, but instead of what we got. So I mean, I don't want to be too long-winded about this because I don't think it's really deserved. Deserves it, but yeah, it wasn't very good for the reasons that Bryan said.
Well, look, this is gonna be weird because this was my favorite thing on this episode, but that's not saying a lot because there was a lot of garbage on this episode. But okay, the one moment, okay, I agree with Bryan that the logic of it is screwy and weird and stupid. That why would he bring that painting with him? Okay, why he could have had another painting? Maybe he could have had two of them or something, and just in case it went either way. But the one moment I liked was when Jericho was telling him, like, come on, you're lying. Be a man for once in your goddamn life. Tell the truth. Like, I thought that was a little bit of, like, real old school Chris Jericho coming out finally, instead of, like, the fake kind of Chris Jericho that we've been getting for such a long time. I thought it sounded genuine, especially because he was telling Don Callis, like, you're a low-life asshole, and like, just tell the truth for once in your life. Like, how can it not sound real when you're talking to Don Callis? And then Don Callis' response, finally, when he told him, you're an egomaniac, and you only worry about yourself, you only care about yourself, and all that stuff, and all, he's like, fine, I'll tell you. Okay, there was something about this that was like, I cracked a smile. Okay, but overall, yes, I don't think this is a good storyline, and the Will Ospreay thing, yes, very weird freaking booking, okay? Like, for 80,000 people, I don't know. But it's going to give them a chance. It's going to give 80,000 people a chance to sing Judas. So that's going to be one of those moments, I guess, that's going to live forever. But the match itself, I don't really care. But let me see. My iPhone turned off. Woo! All right.
Yeah.
Let's move. That's me. All right. All right. My favorite segment on the show, Don Callus. All right, so next we have... Sorry about that, guys. We already went through this. We already went through this part of the show. Oh, I know what's next. It's Jack Perry. Jack Perry and Hook. So Jack Perry says he's going to retire the FTW title. And Taz was kind of flustered by that. He's like, what the hell? That's my title. What do you mean you're going to... So something's supposed to come to a head next week, probably, I'm guessing. Hook is going to come out. I mean, they haven't been booked for All In, Jack Perry or Hook, one of the pillars. So I guess that could be a match, maybe, for All In. But I don't know. The card's kind of full, but we'll see.
Is it, though? Like, the card is not that full.
I think there's 9 matches already. They're already set up. Let me see. There's
Stadium
1, 2,
Stampede.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's 9 matches. I don't know if that's a lot. I mean, depends on the length of the matches. But I'll go through the card with you guys at the end because we're gonna do predictions.
I'm okay. I'm surprised by that because in my head, just thinking about it, I'm like I could probably think of like 4 or 5.
All right, so Gates of Agony versus Darby Allin and Nick Wayne. This is the feud they're having with the Mogul Embassy. That's going to be a tag match at All In. I wasn't so enamored with this booking. I don't know, Vlad. Did you really pay attention to this match at all? I kind of just skipped to the end. To be honest, the baby faces won.
I mean,
they came from behind
right.
and. You know, they were getting beat up a lot, and they ended up coming back in the end. Oh, and then the thing at the end that happened is that Sting kidnapped Prince Nana. He was a little bit of Joker Sting coming out, which is nice. I don't know, Brian, you were talking shit about TNA earlier. I'm a big TNA fan as well. Not as much as WCW, but I love the Joker Sting era in like 2012. I think that was the year. I think that was some of his best work. I don't know if you can ever get a hold of those tapes. I can maybe.
I watched it. I watched it all in real time.
Did you? There you go.
Yeah. I was not a fan of Joker Sting. I did not think it was his best work.
Oh no, Vlad, come on. What do you think? Joker Sting, fan or not?
I mean, it wasn't bad, but I wouldn't say it's his best work.
Not his best work.
Probably somewhere.
Yeah. I'm not shitting. But it's not his best work in my opinion. It's like and it was a little late to the party too. It's like, dude, like you're doing this after like The Dark Knight came out in 2008, and now you want to do this Joker Sting thing. It's like,
but he did it so good though. To be honest, I loved it personally. So it's gonna be nice to see Joker Sting, maybe at the pay-per-view. But this booking itself, I think, is just gonna be a chance to let the fans in England see Sting one last time. Other than that, they're going to get the win, too. They're going to make him look good. Should be one of his last matches, if anything. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see.
Oh, that's right. They're doing the coffin match, right?
It is a coffin match.
It's a coffin.
Yes.
It's a tag team coffin match.
Yeah.
So I guess you got to put both partners in the coffin, or
it's a lot of gimmick matches. We got a Stadium Stampede. We got a coffin match. But anyways, let me move along. We got, after this, I think it's going to be MJF and Adam Cole, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, so they go to Outback Steakhouse because the only way to scout out their Australian opponents is at Outback Steakhouse. So they're going to eat, and Adam Cole loved, they thought it was delicious. They really loved it. And then they were going to watch Crocodile Dundee, but instead MJF showed them a video of a kangaroo. Right, and he wants to do a kangaroo kick. That's going to be like his next thing. Okay, so then I guess the next way was they clotheslined the maintenance guy who found their stuffed crocodile.
Put some respect on it. It's a double clothesline.
A double clothesline, yes, yeah. And they clotheslined him into the kiddie pool, and then Tony Khan calls them into the office and yells at them. One of his first really appearances as a character on this show, other than his little like announcements that he makes, which I think that's interesting. Kind of so even though these are pre-tapes, they're still going along with it, so they're putting him over, they're trying to get him involved. But I'm not sure. Hold on. before I ask you guys about it, I'll do the next segment too because they're involved. They get to the stadium. MJF ate a lot of spicy chicken and he has to take a dump. But they get out there. They cut some promos. Finally, some serious promos this time because this has all been like ridiculous stuff about we're friends and we're gonna shake hands and have a good match. But there was some fire in MJF's promo. It finally said like, this is gonna be my only goal in life to keep this title, and I'm gonna keep it no matter what. Which is interesting. Does that mean he would cheat on his own best friend? At this point, not cheat on him, but you know what I mean. Cheat in the match. But so this segment ends when Aussie Open attacks them. But even though they got sneak attacked, MJF and Adam Cole, they got the best of them at the end, and Aussie Open powders out. And so there's a lot to talk about here. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and start with Bryan on this. So we had a segment.
You start with Vlad. Start with Vlad.
You want to defer to Vlad first?
I do.
Okay, Vlad. Let's defer to Vlad. Okay. Vlad, okay, there was the pre-tape segment.
I will take it from here.
Yeah.
There was the pre-tape segment and the kangaroo kick and the Outback Steakhouse. You want to comment on that first before the in-ring promos?
No, I don't. I'm so sick of these comedy segments. This is what makes it really unbearable to get through. As much as I love MJF, and I said before, I have a soft spot for Cole. I cannot handle this anymore. I mean, it's why don't they just skip those things and have them just come out? If they're going to come out anyways, why even have that? So let's just go to the in-ring segment because that's really what I want to talk about, I guess, or at least discuss.
Okay, so the promos. They said they're going to be serious and try to win the match. Okay, which is also still very weird to me because they're best friends, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, again, credit to MJF. He makes everything entertaining, and he can go from being funny and entertaining in the middle of a promo to getting serious real quick. Just boom like that, and he's in it. So he cut up another really MJF type promo, explaining what the title means to him, explaining everything else that as much as his friendship means to Cole's friendship means to him, the title means even more. So he's gonna do whatever it takes to win and things like that. So and Cole was not bad either. So overall, the promo was strong, the segment was strong. Aussie Open coming in, okay. I mean, I don't know what's the sense of having them also defend the titles on the pre-show or fight for the Ring of Honor titles at the pre-show. I'm a little torn on that, but I'm hopeful that they have an idea with the booking of how that will make sense and how that in the end. So overall, this is probably the strongest segment of the night by far. Like, no doubt about that. After everything,
you're ignoring the pre-tape.
Well, I've been ignoring the pre-tapes for the last month and a half. So yes, I'm going to stick with that and pretend that I'm only seeing the promos as, but yeah, okay. Overall, this was the best part of the show.
Well, okay, listen, Bryan, you know what? I'll go next.
Yeah, okay.
I like that it seemed like they're giving effort to a feud with Aussie Open, it's like, to me, it's MJF. He takes everything seriously. So we're going to fight Aussie Open for it seems like a throwaway match. But, kangaroo kick, okay, it's silly, but it's like messing with Aussie Open a little bit in a way, making fun of them. So it's something, okay? I'm sure that's MJF creative. And it's like I was telling Bryan, Tony Khan's probably too busy to micromanage and write every single joke or whatever. So he's got to let some of his guys do some of the creative themselves. This is what they came up with. Okay, not great, but at least it's something. They're working that match, that Ring of Honor match to start the show. What did any? Roddy. Was Roddy here today? I think he was in the parking lot. I think.
Yeah, he was
with the Kingdom. He kicked the tire. He was pissed off. I have a prediction. I don't know if it's too early. There's one more show. There's one more Dynamite next week, but I can make a prediction if you guys want to do that for what's going to happen at at the pay-per-view. But let's get Brian's opinion about these two segments first: the pre-taped comedic segment, and then the promo battle in the ring that they had. What do you give us some thoughts about that before I might ask us for some predictions?
All right, so I want to be quick. I really don't have a whole lot to add. That's why I wanted Vlad to go first, because I had a feeling that me and him were going to be simpatico. I'm a funny guy. I like haha. I like comedies. Naked Gun is one of my all-time favorite movies. I like comedy and wrestling. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not a fan of these pre-tapes they've been doing. These wacky. I just haven't been a fan.
Complete miss, huh?
Well, it's not even so much that it's a miss. I just think like this is an angle. This is a storyline that is revolving around your top belt in the company. This is the AEW World Championship. I don't think that at that level there should be this level of haha and kind of a carefreeness and something that everybody theoretically within the confines of the narrative should be striving for and trying to get. There's a place for comedy in pro wrestling. I just don't think that comedy needs to be at the top of the card. And this is presumably the main event at Wembley. And like I said, I think they've done a good job with the pre-tapes, even though I kind of disagree. I disagree with the comedic approach and how heavy-handed they've been. So I was not a fan of the Outback stuff, of the double close. It was just so silly. And it was like, this is not what I want in my wrestling. But then, as Vlad mentioned, the next segment, they go to the ring. MJF cuts this impassioned promo. Adam Cole follows up and does his thing. And it's like, that's all that needed to have happen here. That's all we needed. We did not need this whole wacky Outback Steakhouse thing. Just cut that from the run sheet and just do what they did in the ring. There were still elements of levity, but they brought it home, and MJF made it serious. Adam Cole made it serious. It's like, we're boys, but come this night, they both stated, we're going to do whatever I can to walk away as the World Heavyweight Champion. Perfect. I can't remember the last time I saw any wrestling show where I was so vehemently against one segment, but was then so on board for the segment right after. It was like, it was just a ping pong effect. I'm like, what the fuck am I watching right now? It's like,
yeah.
So yeah,
this is why we review Dynamite, man. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. I don't know. Like we were trying to discuss before whether we like Collision or Dynamite better. Like I don't know.
I've been enjoying Collision a lot. Honestly, I've been enjoying the Collision a lot more than Dynamite in these recent weeks.
I mean, it's overall like a more neatly booked show, but man, Dynamite is something else. All right, let's move along though, because we're already past the hour and a half mark. But I do want to finish Dynamite, so let's just do our Dynamite review, and let's get out of here and go drink some beers.
Rollies.
I might have a. Oh, you know what? I forgot about this.
Tony D'Angelo.
I totally forgot about this tease here. What the hell was this? Why was Adam Cole doing this, huh? Vlad thinks,
I didn't like this either.
You know what?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
You know what? Because we don't know what's going to go on next weekend or who's busy. Brian, are you comfortable making a prediction for All In for this match for the Adam Coles? What's going to happen in the pre-show and what's going to happen in the main event? Do you need the last week, or can you make a prediction right now? Because I
can make a prediction. I mean, in terms of like the I wanted to mention the whole 0 hour, the fact that they've got these two your two guys that are going to be in the main event of one of the biggest pro wrestling show in modern history. You then have them on the fucking pre-show. Now, I'm already getting upset about it. I tried to just give everybody the benefit of the doubt until it happens. But on paper, this seems like such a colossal mistake for any number of reasons. Forget the fact that you're risking potential injury by having your two main eventers wrestling on the pre-show ahead of the real show. I don't think Tony Khan is a dumb man. In fact, I think he's a smart individual. I think this whole thing is going to be nothing more than an angle that will probably be used to set up something that will transpire in the actual main event. I don't think they're going to have an actual match with Aussie Open. I think, the Kingdom, Roddy, something like that is going to happen where it's going to be called out, whatever. Maybe they lock up and then, the shit gets thrown out. That's what I'm hoping, because I just can't imagine Tony Khan would risk his main event by having his two main eventers in the freaking pre-show. So that's that. In terms of what I think is going to happen in the main event, honestly, it's hard to say because they've got All Out the following Sunday. So I don't know. Maybe MJF wins. Maybe they run it back at All Out, and that's when we get the double turn, because I do think that Adam Cole is going to be the one that turns on MJF. Whether that happens at All In, if it doesn't happen at All In and they do another match the week later, which, again, I think is a bad idea. Like, I don't know. It's weird to predict something where the next big show is, like, the following week. But
I know it's tough. I'm not so confident about my pick either. But let's just make one, because we might be right, and you could brag about it afterwards if you're right.
I think a double turn is happening. I think MJF is going to remain the babyface that people love to hate, and Cole and Roderick. I mean, there's no way that Roderick Strong is a babyface. You cannot be a babyface rocking the neck brace. He just looked like a buffoon doing that, and he's been rocking this neck brace for weeks now. There's no way in hell this guy is on the up and up at all. So, yeah, I think there's a double turn in the works.
All right, I think that's Vlad's pick too. I'm not sure if he's going to say double turn, but I think you did mention that you're pretty sure Adam Cole's going to be the one to turn on MJF.
Yeah, but I think Brian made a good point in the sense that will it happen this show, or since they have another pay-per-view so soon after, will they wait to show all their cards in the next show? So that does kind of put a wrinkle in my prediction. But I'm going to just say that, for this show is when they do the turn. Though I could be wrong, based on the fact that they, usually they have like a pay-per-view 4 months down the line after this one, but since this one is like right after.
And then what about the pre-show? Do they win that match or do they lose that match? Or
I think what Brian said is probably right. They probably won't even have it. It's probably just going to be like some kind of, brouhaha where everybody just attacks the ring, like Kingdom or something happens, something where they don't end up actually having the match. I think that makes the most sense. So they're not like, I can't imagine they have a competitive 15, 20-minute match and then go in the main event. That would just be unbelievable. I actually might just watch the pre-show just to see what happens.
Like that is so crazy.
Well, here's my prediction.
It is crazy.
My prediction is they're going to win the Ring of Honor tag team titles in the pre-show in a 20-minute match.
Oh, my God.
And in the main event, the run-out will be Roderick Strong. And he's going to come out and distract Adam Cole. Adam Cole's going to say, "Get out of here. I'm doing my match. Get out of here." And that's going to distract him enough for MJF to get the pin, and they're going to stay best friends. There's
so wait, so no turn. Nobody's turning.
No turn. This is too good, baby.
Okay,
better than you, baby.
I have to throw just a slight, not even a monkey wrench, but a question. you, and I say this with all respect because I love Roderick Strong. I've been a fan of Roderick Strong since like 2006. 2007, something like that.
Well, he can be a heel. Adam Cole versus Roderick Strong.
His run as PW champion was one of the best runs in PWG history. I say all that to say this. You were going to have Roderick Strong interfere in the main event of a 90,000 arena-packed Wembley Stadium and have him be the one that interferes in this match against MJF and Adam Cole. Roderick Strong.
Yes.
With the neck brace.
Dude, everyone's been watching this show. Everyone's been watching this show on a week-to-week basis.
But there's levels to this. There's levels to this. Like, no, that's why I think there's more, but there's a greater chance of Roderick getting involved in the pre-show than in the main event, because that'd be like, who was the guy in WWE? I forget his name, but he was like aligned with Carmella, the dumpy looking dude. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Maybe,
I forgot it. I can't remember his name.
He got destroyed by Braun Strowman, and then he became like kind of a regular for a bit of time. And with Carmella, I forget his name, but it'd be like him going and interfering in the main event. It's like,
but it's
what
not,
are you
though.
doing here?
I don't think that analogy is like the same. Roderick Strong is known in the wrestling community. He was in the Undisputed Era.
Right, yes, but he was not, again, I say this with respect to Roddy. That's like having Brandon Cutler come out in the main event and being like, oh, I'm the reason that you lost. It's like, what? No.
Well,
no.
When it happens, you guys are going to come back and tell me. So let's see. All right, let's just wait and see. But I'm locking it in. That's my prediction. They're going to stay together. They have to. Adam, this is way too important to MJF's life. The first friend he's ever made. He needs this. It would destroy him. It would destroy him if Adam Cole.
Don't work yourself into a shoot, brother.
Yeah, he's working himself into a shoot.
All right.
Already preparing for his show, the Mark show that he's going to be doing.
Yeah.
We're basically done with this show. I'm gonna run through the rest of it, but there wasn't really anything that I liked. So they booked this Jericho match with Ospreay. Okay, I love Jeff Jarrett. He's actually my favorite. A mark.
We have to discuss this debacle. We have at least have to.
I know.
I'm about it.
I'm the biggest Jeff Jarrett fan. I love Jeff Jarrett booking. I love Chaos booking. This is a disservice to even Jeff Jarrett. We were talking about
what are you talking about? This was Chaos at its finest.
No, man, this is not how it used to be. There was structured chaos back in the days. This is nonsense. There's no reason why they're even having this match other than Texas Massacre or Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like a sponsor or something. But it was sad to see Jeff Jarrett like this for me in his hometown. He ended up getting the pinfall. But what was this, by the way? This is like worse than WCW 1999 Vince Russo ideas.
God,
we're talking about.
Worse is I would say on par.
Dude, yeah, you remember like Prince Iakea, artist formerly known as Prince Iakea, and whatever bad angle you could think of. Like this is. Yeah, I don't know. This was weirdly booked.
The one that always sticks to me is when they had the Juventud Guerrera and Psychosis match, but on a tequila on a pole match. But that's the one that sticks to me for some reason.
Well, they had a Viagra on a pole match
but
too.
Anyways, right? This was on par, like Brian said. It
was very weird. I don't know.
So this is on par with all that.
So this is bad. Everyone agree that this was like weirdly bad, and just misplaced and. I mean, anyone
it may have been one of the worst. It may have been the worst. It may have been the worst thing they've done so far in AEW, and that's saying a lot. They've done a lot of crazy things that have been bad, but this may have been the worst thing I've seen them do.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Honestly, I'm surprised.
I was just gonna say I don't think that AEW's in a lot of terrible things in their short run as a company. But I was not a fan of this at all.
Yeah, at least Jarrett got the win, though. At least he got the pinfall. sent the fans home happy, huh?
Oh, my God, yes.
He did get hit in the head with his own guitar, too, which was supposed to be like a big deal when it finally happened. But, they kind of wasted it here. But, okay.
The thing with me, just real quick, like I know, so they're doing this as the tie-in for the Texas Chainsaw video game. All right, they're giving the sponsorship money. I get it. I mean, business is business, right? WWE does this sometimes. Remember, like the Miz got eaten by zombies.
Yeah,
like one of the Netflix things, which is terrible. It's like there's got to be a way where you can appease your sponsorship partner, and at the same time tie that sponsorship in to whatever you're doing on programming without it being this dumb. I would like to think. And I watched this and I just thought, there had to have been better ideas than this, because this was just dumb. It was silly. I felt embarrassed watching it. And again, I like all these people involved, and I feel bad for them.
Yeah,
having to participate in this.
Me too.
Yeah, again, it's just like, this is not what I tune in to my pro wrestling for, to see stuff like this.
Well, let's move along. Let's not bring even more light to this segment. Let's hope people forget about it. And then I proceed to make a YouTube segment reviewing the death match on Dynamite. Okay. Well, listen. So what was next? A couple more matches. There was a throwaway match. It was Britt Baker against the Bunny. And this, everyone knew what this was supposed to be. This Britt Baker was going to enter that four-way at All In, so this was kind of a waste of time. The Acclaimed, they're continuing a feud with House of Black. They were supposed to fight some jobbers, which I was disappointed that I didn't get to see the jobbers because the lights came on.
Enhancement talent.
Hey, we can call them jobbers here. We're the Malapert Smarks. We love jobbers, baby. And then the last match of the night was the Guns against the Young Bucks, which was their last tune-up, I think, before they face FTR. And this was a good match, actually. I mean, for a Young Bucks match, Vlad knows I'm not a big fan of the Young Bucks, but they thwarted some cheating shenanigans and proceeded to cheat themselves to win the match. And then FTR hit the ring to save them from a beatdown because they're so honorable and they want to face the Young Bucks at full strength. And Vlad was worried that this is going to be a booking where the Young Bucks book themselves to win. And in light of today's events, Vlad and Bryan, which I don't know if you guys heard about, I think that is kind of going to be solidified now. Right, Vlad? Did you hear about this?
What were today's events? I know I may have been out of the loop. What is
Brian's heard, right? You heard about it?
Yeah. No, Cash got arrested for aggravated assault, brandishing a firearm.
Oh, what?
But he's fine. Like he's gonna be at the show.
He'll be at the show, but they're gonna do the job now. Like, you know.
Well, I don't think his legal situation is gonna impact whatever Tony wants to do. No, because I read the affidavit and everything that happened. And while obviously, it's never good when the police get in your business. It's not as severe of a thing, and like he wasn't forced to give his passport or anything like that. He's free to travel and do all that stuff. So yeah, I mean it'll be something that he takes care of with his personal time and everything. But yeah, I don't think he's going to jail or over any of this or anything like that.
Yeah, but this could be the type of thing where you just get your role reduced because it's just bad publicity. So. I'm kind of thinking
I don't think so. I mean, it didn't pop any like mainstream media.
Look at Vlad's face. Look at his face. Look how sad he looks hearing this news.
I am sad. I think Kayhan's right. It pretty much seals the deal. The Young Bucks are gonna win the match. I mean, if I wasn't 85% before, I'm like almost 99% sure now that they're gonna win. So yeah, I am a little sad.
I wish I was with you, Brian, but I think that's definitely the Young Bucks, man. They're like, well, they need some kind of excuse to book themselves to win this. So I'm gonna.
I don't agree with that. Like the Young Bucks, they don't book themselves to do anything. Like Tony Khan is the one who's making the decisions on all the booking.
So are you picking FTR then for this match?
Honestly, until you asked, like I hadn't even really got to the point where I would think who would go over. I think just based on how this whole thing was kind of like slapdash together, it doesn't make any sense for the Young Bucks to win it. They haven't even up until 2 weeks ago, they hadn't even seemed concerned with the AEW Tag Team Championships. Whereas FTR, like their whole identity is built and based around the fact that they are the AEW Tag Champs. So I would say FTR goes over because it's like, okay, so Young Bucks win. It's not like they have any challengers lined up for them. Like they hadn't even been in the tag division until 2 weeks ago, or actually not even that since on this week when they faced the Guns. So I think FTR retains. I think it'll be probably the best match on the show. And yeah, I think FTR goes over.
All right, interesting. So let's get a grade from you guys for this Dynamite, and then I'll go over the card as we have it so far for All In. Vlad, give it a grade. AEW Dynamite, Wednesday, the 16th of August, 2023.
I'm trying to see if I should be a little lenient, but I don't even know why. I'm going to give it a C-, but it probably deserves like a D. If there's a show that deserves an F, it might be this one. But I'm going to be really
come on.
nice.
No, it's not an F show. It wasn't an F show.
Well, okay, it wasn't an F show, but let's just say C-. That's what I'll leave it as C-.
All right, Brian, let's hear it.
Yeah, I'm with Vlad. I mean, I wasn't going to do like the plus or minus thing. I was just going to say a C. Definitely not one of their better episodes. A lot of silliness and dumb shit. But some of the wrestling was good. Some of the promos were great. I think, off the strength of the opening match, Wheeler Yuta and Orange Cassidy, which I thought was the best in-ring on the show, and then the in-ring promo segment with Cole and MJF were enough to keep it in the C level for me.
Well, the worst grade I think I gave Dynamite since we started doing this podcast was like a D+. But I'm gonna do it, Vlad. This was an F. I'm giving it an F. Well, look, when I was in school, and a D- was 60% exactly. So if you got 60% of the questions right, they'll let you slide with a D-. So 59%. I would call this less than 59%. Honestly, this is the worst Dynamite I've seen by far. There was too much bad in it. There was not much good in it. Yeah. When I'm saying the best thing was the horrible segment between Don Callis, and the one saving grace was like MJF and Adam Cole. If it didn't have their in-ring promos, it would have been like a 20% show. Instead, I'll call it like a 50% show. This was bad, dude. This is like the build-up to All In. I was so disappointed, man. I'm like, why are you doing all this silly stuff? And even especially considering the time where we're like a week away, and they're fooling around, man. Like, this is the go-home. This is pretty much it. Like, and I'm not really happy with a lot of the booking, the best friends stuff with the Blackpool Combat Club. I just really don't care about it all. So I'll give it a good F, an F+, like really close to D-. So,
to their, or just to be fair, this was not the go home show. So just to be fair,
no, I know but, it's go home, yeah. Almost go home. We're going home. We're getting there. Anyways,
this was the go home show to the go home show.
So good show, guys. Thank you for coming on.
Well, did Brian give his grade? I missed it. If he did,
I did. A C. Yeah, I gave it a C.
Oh, C. C. Got it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. That's right.
C. But I do think that Saraya is going to win that 4-way match just because it's in England. So it's Sheeta, Britt Baker, and Toni Storm. So I think that's Saraya. I don't know if anyone has a prediction for that one.
I don't think it's going to be her.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be her either.
I think Sheeta retains.
I'd like to see Toni Storm win it just because
Britt Baker could win it, I think.
I'm not seeing that. I think Toni Storm would be my choice. I think she's an amazing talent, and I'm starting to see it. It took me a while, but I'm starting to see what people were talking about before. That she is. No,
I'm a huge fan now. FTR and the Bucks, we talked about Punk versus Joe. I guess their 5th match, they could call it. I mean, I guess Punk is going to go over in front of everybody. I don't know, honestly.
I think Punk.
I would. Yeah, I would. You would have to think.
So MJF and Cole, we've talked about, and then there's Stadium Stampede with that mess of people, Jericho and Ospreay. It's not even worth to make a prediction for this one. Bullet Club Gold versus
Ospreay wins that, I think.
Yeah,
okay. I'll go along with that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but Golden Elite and Bullet Club Gold, that could steal the show. Actually, that could be a really good match. I don't know who's gonna win though. I guess I'll go with the baby faces for that one.
I'm gonna go with Bullet Club, and I think they run it back the week later because I think they're using this 6-man to set up potentially at least one singles match at All Out, which will be Omega versus Takeshita. So I'm thinking that probably the heels go over on this, but that's just a guess on my part.
And then the
Not a
last
bad
one
guess.
booked so far. Oh, sorry, Vlad. Did you have a guess? Or?
For that one, no. I mean, it could. What Brian said made sense. So I mean, it could be right. That could be right. That one could go either way.
Yeah. And then the last one is the Sting and Darby one against Swerve and AR Fox, which I think is definitely going to be a Sting victory in grandiose fashion.
Yeah.
For sure.
So no Danielson.
I don't think Sting's flying to the UK to lose in front of 90,000 people.
Shit.
No.
Danielson's out. Would have been nice to have him for this big show. No trios titles. Not worth it. No TBS title. Chris Statlander. No Christian. No Hook. No Jack Perry. No Ricky Starks so far.
Matches are still going to be made. I just knowing Tony Khan, like he's not done. There will be some matches added. Whether it's one, maybe two, but I don't think he's done with the card yet. But just my thought on the matter.
All right.
You would think that Jack Perry and Hook would be involved just based on the fact that they're two of their younger talents and they want to showcase them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like Brian said, they do have that pay-per-view a week after and stuff, so they could save some of it.
Yeah.
Like Miro, Hobbs, these are other guys that have been in angles. So all right, I'm off that Sunday. I don't know where you guys are gonna watch this, but I'm.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, where you guys watching this? Because I'm definitely checking it out. Obviously, I mean,
Sunday afternoon. So we're gonna get drunk by 5 p.m. here. We're in America for our international people. So this is in England. So the show starts at noon for us. Noon to 5.
Oh, that's right.
PM.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna wake up early.
Yeah, we should get together. We should get together and watch it if that's possible.
I'm really looking forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to it. This MJF thing and Adam Cole, it's got the grips on me, man. I want to see what happens. All right, so look, we hit the 2-hour mark. I usually try to make these shows 90 minutes, but I went half an hour over. But I think it was a really good show. I think there'll be stuff on this that we could keep for like the best of show that comes out at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying? All right, listen, Brian, thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome.
Of course. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, yeah, dude. Anytime. Vlad, the wrestling expert, you're the man. The future first inductee into the Malapert Smart Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not yet, but future.
Oh, I thought I was already being enshrined.
No, me too.
I said future. No, we're going to have a big ceremony. As long as he keeps his nose clean. Like, as long as he doesn't do anything like,
as long as
really
I don't
bad.
get picked up by the cops. Go to
jail. Exactly. Then I don't want that publicity on my Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
but
of course, that makes sense.
All right, guys. So the show's gonna come out tomorrow. I'll put out clips little by little. I'll send them to you. So thank you so much. You guys make my show possible. Seriously, this is cool. Best time of my week, honestly. Really, it really is. Life is usually really tough and hard and a lot of work and a lot of responsibility, but this is nice. This is nice. All right, guys.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Love you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'll let you go. I mean, I'll see you guys soon.
All right.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Take care, Brian. Yeah, take care.